Today we're playing with Purbond. It's a single pack polyurethane glue. It's got advantages over the others. The first one is we know what date it's made from the batch number. It's Aussie made, so it's not old when you get it. A lot of the problem with polyurethanes is they're imported and they're already old when you get them. Plastic isn't waterproof, so they'll go off in the container. Next advantage of Purbond is it's got an additive in it that chases hydrogen atoms, so you can glue anything but polyplastics with it. Works really well on metal, wood, foam, all those sorts of good stuff, even your oily timbers. And the secret to using Purbond is clamping, and clamping tight with no gap. If it's got gap or not clamped tight, the foam, the adhesive will come out of the joint, and it'll actually open up joints, and anywhere where it does that, if you're not clamped tight enough, the joint will fail. It won't be stronger. But anywhere where you've got really good clamping, you'll pull the timber first, even on really hard and oily timbers such as teak, hewn pine, ironbark, jarrah, things like that. Works really well on them. So we've got three different types. We've got the traditional Purbond, which gives you about a 20-minute working time to get your clamps on, and then about an hour to 2 hours clamp up time depending on the temperature. We've got our FX, which you've got about 3 minutes working time, and in about 5 to 10 minutes you can pull the clamps off and work it, and that's what all this is done with our FX. And we've also got an F20. So clamps only need to be on it for about 20 minutes. If you have a look at these joints, they're all fairly good except this one here. It must have had a bead go across in the wrong place. See how it's foam dried up? And there's too much out of the joint. You should only have the most minute amount of Purbond out of the joint. If you've got more than that coming out of the joint, you've used too much Purbond. Be a real miser with it. You'll get as good of gluing results with being very economical with it as you will with too much. The other big advantage of Purbond is it's easy to clean up. So just even a sharp blade knife, it'll cut really easy. Look at that. And it doesn't leave a glue line, so you just sand that and you've got a really neat line there that takes bugger all to clean up. Chisel's another good way. Planes off easy. It's not hard on your tools like epoxy. So anywhere where it comes out of the joint, you can clean it up really well. So, and you only need to leave the clamps on until it's gone hard. If it's still sticky at all, leave the clamps on. As soon as it's like this is probably only an hour to an hour and a half ago, it was put on. That's got 80% of its strength, and it'll have 100% strength in 24 hours. That's all, folks. Okay, this is our Purbond display board, and it's a really good demo of what you can use Purbond for. It's great. This is polypropylene nitoplast with 1.5mm bending ply, and that has been bagged onto that surface. Sticks really well, solid as. So that's an unusual one. This here is 100-year-old ironbark, and I got this out of the scrap bin at Australian Architectural Hardwoods, and it had been recycled, been milled, and these were offcuts, and I grabbed it to see how the Purbond would go. As you can see, it's pulled the grain of the timber, so the Purbond's stronger than the timber, and iron bark is known to be as hard as nails. We've got metal, so we've got stainless steel. It's great for lap joints. So got a lap there, you'd struggle to pull that apart. The reason it works so well and how you get it to work well, stainless steel and aluminium are hard to glue because they get an oxide film on the surface. What you do, you coarse sand it with about 80 grit, wipe a damp cloth over both surfaces, put the glue on and then spread it as thin as you can right across the surface. You don't want it too thick or it'll go everywhere. You don't want more than that coming out of the joint. So then you clamp it tight and it's solid as. Here we've got walnut onto aluminium backing sheet. There's a joiner uses this technique in some upmarket Renaults they use. They tried all sorts of things and the Purbond outshone everything else. Rubber onto aluminium. If you didn't put moisture on that, even with the sanding technique, you'd pull the rubber straight off. But if you tried to pull that rubber off, you'd pull bits of rubber off, or leave bits of rubber on the aluminium. Foam, won't melt foam, works really well with foam. A couple of difficult to glue timbers. Jarrah. These are salad forks this fella down in Tassie makes, and he uses 1.5mm bending ply in the middle, a veneer of Jarrah on the outside, puts the glue on the veneer, throws them in his jig for an hour or two, pulls them out, and they're like this for the rest of their life. Really good stuff, and the same in hue and fine. Doesn't leave a glue line, it cleans up really easy. No glue line on either of those. That's had a bit of stain on it, bit of oil on that one, and look at them, look like $1 million. So Purbond is a really versatile glue as long as you got no gap and can clamp it really tight. Just to finish off, here's to show you how good it works. This fella builds traditional 10-foot sailing dinghies, and he became hypersensitive to epoxy, so he uses the Purbond, and all he does is put staples through. You'll see through a few staple holes there when he glues his two laminates of plywood together, so they're glued at 90 degrees when he builds the boats. Here's another piece out of one of his boats that he cut. You can see the two sheets of 3mm plywood glued together, and then if you look at the end grain, that's all glued with Purbond. Every piece of bit of timber on there, and the secret to it is getting it to clamp tight. Won't pull the joint apart, you'll break the timber before you'll break the joint. There you go.